Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If you're back or if you were just sticking with us the whole time, this is part two of this um, live show. It's like the extravaganza of 1984. I had technical difficulties last week, so I wasn't able to do the live show discussing pages 149 to 200. And then, of course, now today we are rounding it out with pages 200 to 266. And that's finishing the book. This is our last little section. And it's just gotten really, really intense because Winston and Julia just got caught by the thought police. We thought they were super safe in this room, but then there's a hidden telescreen. The thought police came, they took them away. Oh my god. Are you freaking out in your head? Because I was freaking out in my head as I was reading that. Let's see in the comments. Hello from Dubai. Oh my goodness. Thank you for watching my videos and enjoying them. That makes me so happy to see that someone on the other side of the world can actually watch my videos and enjoy them. Oh my god. That is kind of scary in a way. Okay, but moving on with 1984. The first sentence is, he did not know where he was. Presumably he was in the Ministry of Love. There is no way of making certain. It's just, you're abducted. When the party takes you, you are theirs, and they're going to do whatever they see fit. So he doesn't know how long he's been there. He doesn't know where he is. Like the cell that he is taken to. Yeah, he's just given a number. Like now he's just 6079 Smith W. They go by your last name and your number, and that's it. Like you're lower than an animal essentially. Like they just completely dehumanize you. But beyond like not even knowing what day it is or what time it is, he has no idea where he is, and it's like the cell that he is being held in. He's like, I have no idea where this is. Like, it could be in a basement, it could be the first floor, it could be 10 floors up in a huge building. He just has no idea. So he's not alone in this cell. There's like some other people. Someone else said, like, there's this crazy woman whose last name is also Smith, and he has this weird thought like it could be his mother. But regardless, he knows that he's fucked. While he's locked up, he surprisingly doesn't have too many thoughts of Julia. Like, he's just kind of focusing on himself, but then realizes that even though he's not thinking of Julia, he is more often thinking of O'Brien and what has happened to him. So, there we go. Yeah, that was like the only note that I made so far. It said Winston has been taken. We can only assume the Ministry of Love. Julie has been taken as well, but Winston isn't worrying about her, only with himself. But he is thinking of O'Brien. So from here, I'm just gonna have to like flip through this last section. There is a character, Parsons, who I honestly didn't remember from the beginning of this book, like who they were. I assume that it's someone that he works with, but he got arrested for thought crime, and it's this really crazy moment where you realize how powerful the party is, because so this guy gets arrested for thought crime, and he's wondering about what's going to happen to him. He says, I tried to do my best for the party, didn't I? I'll get off with 5 years, don't you think? Or even 10 years? A chap like me could make himself pretty useful in a labor camp. They wouldn't shoot me for going off the rails just once. Winston asks him, "Are you guilty?" And he says, "Of course I'm guilty." And he like looks at the telescreen as he says it, and then continues, "You don't think the party would arrest an innocent man, do you? That crime is a dreadful thing, old man. It's insidious. It can get a hold of you without you even knowing it. Do you know how it got a hold of me? In my sleep. Yes, that's a fact. There I was, working away, trying to do my bit. Never knew I had any bad stuff in my mind at all. And then I started talking in my sleep." So, right off the bat, I don't believe him. I don't believe this is the actual story of what happened to him. Um, you're wondering if he's playing into the telescreen and saying it just because of that, or if this is what he truly believes and the party has truly brainwashed him. But apparently he was saying "down with Big Brother" in his sleep, and his child overheard him, saw him through the keyhole in the door, and then the next day turned him into the police. Like we were talking about it before, that's like one of the major accomplishments of the party and this government's hold on society. Um, no, Ustream bot, I do not need assistance. Um, okay, so totally distracted me. Yes, okay. So one of the major accomplishments of the party, showing what a grasp and like control they have over society, is that they have changed things so much so that the relationship between children and parents is essentially like gone. They disintegrated it. There is no loyalty any longer. And if a child sees their parent doing something that is against the law or going against the party, they're just gonna turn them in. They don't even. It's not that they don't care. It's just I feel like they care about the party more because they don't know any different. Everything has been normalized, and they truly believe that they're doing what they should. Someone in the comments said the Ministry of Truth exists in North Korea, and I mean, North Korea is kind of like its own little world and subject in its own, like, it's tough. It's really tough because they truly have taken a hold of their people and kind of brainwashed them in a lot of ways. So yeah, this whole I mean, 1984, it's kind of a reflection like on the United States and on places across the world. I think that's why he split it up like this with Oceania and Eurasia and Eastasia or whatever it's called. It's like this shit can happen anywhere. Essentially, I feel like is the basic motive behind it all. So yeah, just kind of crazy that this man has like convinced himself that he is guilty already, even though that he's probably not. It should be normal to have your own thoughts, but in this society, it's unacceptable. um, so Parsons was removed, and more prisoners came and went mysteriously. Someone was assigned to room 101, and room 101 kind of becomes this like super mystery where you don't know what goes on there, but you know that it's really bad, and no one wants to go there. Just a few pages later, someone comes in to take them away, or like an officer comes to take them away, and he says room 101 because once they come in, they like announce where you're going, and he essentially freaks out and begs not to be sent to room 101. He says, or no, he cries. He's not even says. It says he cries. You don't have to take me to that place. Haven't I told you everything already? What else is it that you want to know? There's nothing I wouldn't confess. Nothing. Just tell me what it is and I'll confess it straight off. Write it down and I'll sign it. Anything. Not room 101. The officer just coldly says, room 101. That's where you're going, dude. Like, you're fucked. And says, do anything to me. You've been starving me for weeks. Finish it off and let me die. Shoot me, hang me, sentence me to 25 years. Is there somebody else you want me to give away? Just say who it is and I'll tell you anything you want. He doesn't care about anything. He just doesn't want to go to this room 101. And your mind is just like racing, wondering what the possibilities are. You know that the party has no reservations against torture. Like, this whole book has been leading up to it, essentially. Like, what power they possess, what they're capable of. It seems like it's all culminated into this room 101. And I don't know, anything's possible. So yeah, they take him off. Two sturdy guards, they pick him up and they haul him off to room 101 to do whatever. And then we're kind of surprised that guess who shows up? O'Brien. And so he comes in. Winston, like, is super startled. He's shocked by the sight of him, and he cries, "They got you too!" And O'Brien says, "They got me a long time ago," which, when you're just like casually reading, doesn't mean so much. But now reflecting back, the statement, "They got me a long time ago," is so much more revealing, because soon we find out the truth of O'Brien. And going back to, I think it was let me go to my notes. I'm pretty sure it was like my very first section of this book when we were discussing it. And I'm like, should we trust O'Brien? Like, how much do we really know about this guy? Maybe it was the second one, because yeah, so it was the second section of the book club during pages 43 to 92, when we are introduced to Winston, or not introduced to Winston, Winston's our main character, our other character, O'Brien, and like you don't really know if you should trust him or not. So then in our last section of pages 201 to 266, it's confirmed. We should have never ever trusted O'Brien. He's a sneaky motherfucker, and it's no good. No good moving forward through the end of this book. So then he says, "You knew this, Winston. Don't deceive yourself. You did know it. You have always known it." So Winston kind of like has this moment where his inner monologue or his inner dialogue says, yes, he saw now. He had always known it, but there was no time to think of that. All he had eyes for was the truncheon in the guard's hand. It might fall anywhere, on the crown, on the tip of the ear, on the upper arm, on the elbow. And then he gets hit, is almost paralyzed, and is essentially taken away to another area of what we can only assume is the Ministry of Love. Okay, so they take him away to, essentially, you can only assume, to be tortured. because he's in this room and someone else is standing with O'Brien. They're in a white coat and they're holding a hypodermic syringe. So, again, you know that it's not going to be good for Winston moving forward through the end of this book. Unfortunately, I mean, you had high hopes for Winston. You were like, yeah, he's got these individualistic thoughts. He's going against the party, but um, yeah, no, not so good for my hair. All weird. Um, no, unfortunately, Winston was not strong enough. I guess the party was stronger, and they found him, and they took him, and now they're gonna torture him until they get what they want. So yeah, they start torturing him, and page 214, I underlined a quote. There were times when his nerves so foreshook that he began shouting for mercy even before the beating began. With the mere sight of first drawn wait. When the mere sight of first drawn back for a blow was enough to make him pour forth a confession of real and imaginary crimes. So they have beaten him so badly that he is confessing to real and imaginary crimes, like things that just didn't even happen, aren't possible, but he's confessing to them because that is how hard the party goes on you. Like they just don't care at all about you. It's fucking terrifying. So they're just continuously torturing him. He's confessing, and they want to break him. They want to break him so badly. They see what an individual Winston is and how they have failed to convert him essentially to be like the normal like part of society that everyone else is. Kind of like a robot zombie essentially. Like you have no real possessions, you have no real thoughts, you just go along with what you're told. So he's kind of going, I mean, Winston is kind of going back and forth with like his inner power and like how long he wants to hold off. He says that in his inner dialogue, he says that his sole concern was to find out what they wanted him to confess and then confess it quickly before the bullying started anew. He confessed the assassination of eminent party members, the distribution of I don't know, something pamphlets, embezzlement of public funds, sales of military secrets, sabotage of every kind. He confessed that he had been a spy in the pay of East Asian government as far back as 1968. He confessed that he was a religious believer, an admirer of capitalism, and a sexual pervert. He confessed that he had murdered his wife, although he knew, and his questioners must have known, that his wife was still alive. He confessed that for years he had been in personal touch with Goldstein and had been a member of an underground organization which included almost every human being he had ever known. It was easier to confess everything and implicate everybody. Besides, in a sense, it was all true. It was true that he'd been an enemy of the party, and in the eyes of the party, there was no distinction between the thought and the deed. So that's how far gone the party is in their like concept of control over society. They don't even want you to think something, an action against the law, like that in their minds is bad enough as the deed itself. Like just you thinking it, it's as if you did it already. And so the party is going to punish you for that, just the thought of it. That's how far they've gone. So, okay, so O'Brien, it's revealed we shouldn't have trusted him at all. even more so than Mr. Charrington. Like, he is like way up in the party. And he says, "Don't worry, Winston. You're in my keeping. For 7 years I have watched over you. Now the turning point has come. I shall save you. I shall make you perfect." He was not sure whether it was O'Brien's voice, but it was the same voice that had said to him, "We shall meet in the place where there is no darkness," in that dream. In the dream that he had 7 years ago. And so O'Brien repeats, "I told you that if we ever met again, it would be here." And so it was kind of like O'Brien was like, not backpedaling, but he was like, "Well, Winston, I didn't necessarily really lie to your face, because I said that if we were ever to meet again, it would be here. But the implications in the sentence before were that they were both arrested for the same thing. They were like in the Brotherhood together, but really O'Brien was just setting him up, and that when they met again in the Ministry of Love, it was going to be O'Brien versus Winston, and not O'Brien and Winston in it together against the party. So, yeah, O'Brien is bad, all bad, and he essentially is going to be the one to break Winston and to make him love the party, because that's essentially all they want. They need to break you down to your lowest point and control all of your thoughts, pretty much. I mean, that's not asking for much, really. Of course it is. I mean, it's just not possible for one government to have this much control over people. But then again, it is, and at the same time, it is what they want. They want this total control, power, mind control. And hopefully, this government that we have right now in the United States does not go any further. This whole NSA leak and like spying on us essentially consistently over so many different medias. I don't know. It's like stepping stones towards this type of government, and it's kind of scary. Not kind of scary, it's really scary. So yeah, so Winston is essentially fucked. O'Brien is just holding him here and is just torturing him and like rewiring his mind. They talk about there's these 3 people, Jones, Aronson, and Rutherford, and how they were arrested for something, and then apparently Winston had found a photograph that proved them innocent. So they go over it and over it that this didn't exist, this photograph never existed, these people had done the crime, that's why they were arrested, and it's just totally normal. And I don't know, they just go back and forth because O'Brien claims that this memory doesn't exist, and that Winston was like, "No, like, I remember it. Like, it exists in my memory. Like, this is what happened. And no matter, like, what you do to say all these other things, I still have this memory that is contradictory." So they go back to the concept of controlling the past and controlling the present, because of the party slogan. So O'Brien says, "There is a party slogan dealing with the control of the past. Repeat it, if you please." Winston obediently says, "Who controls the past controls the future." Who controls the present controls the past. And O'Brien says, who controls the present controls the past, nodding with his head, slow approval. Is it your opinion, Winston, that the past has real existence? Again, the feeling of helplessness descended upon Winston. His eyes flitted towards the dial. So he's like essentially attached to a torture machine where there's like a dial. I'm guessing it goes from 0 to 100. Obviously, 100 is going to hurt the most. And so O'Brien is like has this like flip of a switch where he can torture him at the flip of the switch. So that's what he was looking at, the little switch. Okay. He not only did not know whether yes or no was the answer that would save him from the pain, he did not even know which answer he believed to be the true one. O'Brien smiled faintly. You are no metaphysician, Winston, he said. Until this moment, you had never considered what is meant by existence. I will put it more precisely. Does the past exist concurrently in space? Oh, concretely, sorry. Concretely in space. Is there somewhere or another place, a world of solid objects where the past is still happening? No. Then where does this past exist, if at all? In records. It is written down. In records and in the mind, in the human memories. In memory. Very well then. We, the party, control all records, and we control all memories. Then we control the past, do we not? But how can you stop people remembering things? Cried Winston. It is involuntary. It is outside oneself. How can you control the memory? You have not controlled mine. O'Brien's manner grew stern again, and he laid his hand on the dial. On the contrary, he said, you have not controlled it. That is what has brought you here. You are here because you have failed in humility and self-discipline. You would not make the act of submission, which is the price of sanity. You preferred to be a lunatic, a minority of one. Again, this is how far gone the party is and how crazy delusional they are, where they're trying to rewire Winston's brain and make him believe that you're a lunatic if you have these individual thoughts and you want to go against the party and you believe that they are doing something wrong. And Winston is just trying to stay strong as long as he can, that it's not happening. So they go back to the torture, and he holds up 4 fingers and is like, how many fingers do I have? And he says 4, and he's like, no, it's 5. And he just like tortures them until Winston cries out that he is holding up 5 fingers, even though he's only holding up 4. So we find out like the true meaning behind this torture. They really do want to change Winston completely. They want to take away those memories and like personal moments and like just his personality in general, really. They just want to like wipe the slate clean, and so Winston can be whoever the party wants him to be instead of Winston being whoever Winston wants to be. So page 225, O'Brien says, shall I tell you why I have brought you here? To cure you, to make you sane. Will you understand, Winston, that no one whom we bring into this place ever leaves our hands uncured? We are not interested in those stupid crimes that you have committed. The party is not interested in the overt act. The thought is all we care about. We do not merely destroy our enemies, we change them. And this is like the point in the book where I'm like, okay, this is the real difference between today's society and the society that's going on in this book, because all along we've been showing these parallels and kind of like compare and contrast and everything. And this is definitely where we need to like really gear it up, like start a fucking revolution if there's any inclination that this is the direction that our government is going. Because it's one thing to like go to war and want to destroy an enemy, but to change them is it's a whole new form of control, and it's way too overpowering, and there's not enough certainty to it. It's just whatever the party wants is what's going to happen, essentially. So he's going on about like O'Brien goes into history and like the history of fucked up governments trying to take over their people. And he says, 266, men were dying because they would not abandon their true beliefs. Naturally, all the glory belonged to the victim and all the shame to the inquisitor who burned him. So it's like not natural progression, but there's always been these overpowering governments and then people wanting to overrun and take the power back, essentially. Like, they don't want to overrun them, they just want to take the power back. But throughout history, it's always been the man who was tortured is shown as the victim, and then obviously the inquisitor, as they put it, is the one who takes all the blame and is shown as the bad guy, which is the actual situation and how it should be seen. But the party is so fucking crazy that they want to change that history and make it so they are the ones that are shown as the victims, and the people who want to overtake them, they are the enemy and they are the evil in the world. And so I just want to flip everything to be opposite. Everything. So yeah, so I mean, like I said earlier, when they just wanted to like wipe Winston clean, essentially, like make him clean slate completely, he says that you will be lifted clean out from the stream of history. We shall turn you into gas and pour you into the stratosphere. Nothing will remain of you, not a name in register, not a memory in a living brain. You will be annihilated in the past as well as in the future. You will never have existed. Obviously, we know this is possible because they did it to people earlier in the book, like one of Winston's friends. They just like completely removed him. And so, yeah, just they wipe people from history. We've known that this is possible. It's something that they're completely capable of, and now they want to do this to Winston because he is not giving in. So it just gets more and more terrifying. Your like hope for Winston is it's going down pretty much. Like you start out reading this book and you're like, yay, Winston, like he's gonna stay true and powerful and come to the top, and then that just doesn't really happen. So O'Brien continues explaining to Winston how he has no hope, and says, never again will you be capable of ordinary human feeling. Everything will be dead inside you. Never again will you be capable of love or friendship or joy of living or laughter or curiosity or courage or integrity. You will be hollow. We shall squeeze you empty, and then we shall fill you with ourselves. Oh my god. They just keep taking it to an even farther extreme. You think once when they do something and you're reading and you're like, oh my god, that shit's insane. It's really intense. And then they just keep taking it farther. They keep doing more and more shit that's just like, what? Do they really do that? Oh my god. So yeah, you're reading, and then you're like, poor Winston, oh my god, is this actually gonna work? And you kind of like flip-flop between thinking that he's going to stay strong and keep going against it, and then you're like, oh shit, they're actually getting to him. Page 229, referring to Winston, as his eyes regained their focus, he remembered who he was and where he was, and he recognized the face that was gazing into his own, but somewhere or other there was a large patch of his emptiness, as though a piece had been taken out of his brain. Like they're actually really getting to him, like they're getting inside of his brain, and that's what they've always wanted. So you don't really know what's going to happen to Winston at this point. Like there's only so many pages left. They're just like going to continually torture him, and it's no good. Again, 233, O'Brien is just like pounding this into Winston's brain, saying there is no way in which the party can be overthrown. The rule of the party is forever. Make that the starting point of your thoughts. You understand well enough how the party maintains itself in power. Now tell me why we cling to power. What is our motive? Why should we want power? Go on, speak. Like they're filling Winston's brain with all of these things, and then like continuously proving them right, essentially. Someone in the comments, I love this idea. So when you're written out of history, it's a media lobotomy. Essentially, like they just erase everything. So yeah, they really are breaking Winston down, but O'Brien kind of does the grudge work and says, now I will tell you the answer to my question. It is this. The party seeks power entirely for its own sake. We are not interested in the good of others. We are interested solely in power. Not wealth or luxury or long life or happiness, only power. Pure power. What pure power means, you will understand presently. We are different from all other oligarchies in the past in that we know what we are doing. So they're insinuating that the other types, like he mentions Nazis and all of that, and how they didn't know what they were doing, and how this party does know what they're doing. And Big Brother, this perfect system, and they're just going to stay in power forever. There's nothing anyone can ever do about it. Yeah, again, they're continuing with this torture. But Winston has like this little tiny flame of hope within him, somewhere buried deep in his brain. Says in his inner monologue, and yet he knew that he was right, that he was in the right. The belief that nothing exists outside your own mind, surely there must be some way of demonstrating that it was false. So it's like, no matter what the party is trying to show you, he knows that it's wrong. He knows that it's different everywhere else. And so, I don't know. Just that little tiny flicker. It's like not even a flame, it's like a flicker of a flame. It's going in and out. He doesn't know what he's thinking really, how he's gonna stay strong. And so, again, another like crazy thing. The party thinks, O'Brien says, "You're under the impression that hatred is more exhausting than love. Why should it be? And if it were, what difference would that make? The party is immortal." So terrifying that they have such a clutch on everything, and they just want this pure power, and it's only for the want of more power. Like, I don't know, really scary. So I'm just flipping through, seeing if there's anything else super key. So essentially, they're kind of working at breaking Winston down. Page 246 says, "He seemed to have lost the power of intellectual effort. Now that the stimulus of pain had been removed, he was not bored. He had no desire for conversation or distraction, merely to be alone, not to be beaten or questioned, to have enough to eat, and to be clean all over was completely satisfying." So Winston doesn't know how long exactly he's been in the Ministry of Love and how long they've been torturing him. He thinks that it could be weeks, but he also says that it could be months. And so they've essentially stripped him of everything. So now he isn't anything. He's just like this empty shell where it's enough for him to be fed and be clean. Because for a while they weren't allowing him to shower or whatever. But then after a lot of torture, essentially, they allowed him to wash himself fairly regularly. And so that completely satisfied him. And that's so terrifying that such a basic thing like having your stomach full and your skin clean, that makes you a whole person and you're like completely satisfied with life. No, like you need to have other things in your life to make it substantial, essentially. Oh my god. um but then just like a couple pages later, that flicker comes back. um O'Brien had mentioned this thing about how he could levitate if he really wanted, but the party doesn't want him to levitate, and so that's why he doesn't do it. And that they are all powerful and they can do anything, even levitate, but it's just the party doesn't want him to, so that's why he doesn't do it. It's not that it's not possible. So, running off of that thought, Winston says, "If he thinks he floats off the floor, and if I simultaneously think I see him do it, then the thing happens. Suddenly, like a lump of submerged wreckage breaking the surface of the water, the thought burst into his mind. It doesn't really happen. We imagine it. It's a hallucination." He pushed the thought under instantly. The fallacy was obvious. It was presupposed that somewhere or other, outside oneself, there was a real world where real things happened. But how could there be such a world? What knowledge have we of anything, save through our own minds? All things happening, all happenings are in the mind. Whatever happens in all minds truly happens. So again, it's like this flip-flop between he has these fleeting moments where he's like, no, this isn't right, I need to go against this, and then like accepting it as truth. In the comments, someone said, "Sounds like a conservative, no levitating." Essentially, yeah, that is like the mindset that they have, where they're just kind of crazy. Do as we say and don't think because you're an anarchist otherwise. Yeah, exactly. Yay, finally people are actually being there in the comments. I really enjoy it when people are actually interactive with this book club instead of me just like sitting here talking. Okay, so, ugh. Okay, now we get down to like the really nitty gritty of it. Oh my god, I've been talking for so long. Shit, this is way longer than an hour show. Whoops. Okay, but whatever, we're almost done. So we get down to the super nitty gritty of it. O'Brien is realizing that just with straight up, like, I don't want to say kid glove type of torturing, but it's essentially what they've been doing so far. And he says, "Tell me, Winston, and remember, no lies. You know that I'm always able to detect a lie. Tell me, what are your true feelings towards Big Brother?" "I hate him." "You hate him. Good. Then the time has come for you to take the last step. You must love Big Brother. It is not enough to obey him. You must love him." He released Winston with a little push towards the guards. "Room 101, he said. Dun, dun, dun! It's like another one of those like shockingly crazy moments in the book where you're just like, oh my god, I need to read faster, like what's going to happen? They're going to take him to this room 101 where we've been super curious so far what actually goes on in this room, and shit, this is unfortunately where I stopped reading. Oh my god, it's so embarrassing. Yeah, I was bad this last week and did not keep up with my reading like I should have, and I didn't finish rereading the last section, or like the last 10 pages of the book. Oh my god, this is so bad. So they bring him, I mean, obviously I like remember vaguely because I've read the book before, but then, I don't know. I didn't get to reread it, unfortunately. So, okay, they bring him to room 101. We find out the true purpose of the room, and it's just the worst thing ever. Whatever that means to whoever is in that room, it's based upon whatever their worst fear is, essentially. Aw, someone says read to us. I mean, I could. I guess I could stop the record and do that, but that might be super duper boring. But I guess there's only 6 of you, so if one of you doesn't like that, you can just leave. um, oh my god. Okay, so yeah, let me know in the comments if you really do want me to do that. Maybe I can. So yes, so he's in this room. He finds out that it's just going to be. He really does say on page 253, the worst thing in the world varies from individual to individual. It may be burial alive, or death by fire, or by drowning, or by impalement, or 50 other deaths. There are cases where some are quite trivial and not even fatal. Then he says, in your case, the worst thing in the world happens to be rats. Ah! So now we finally get like the true revealing of why they had that like weird revealing. It was a weird sentence. So earlier in the book, there's this moment where you're like, why are they mentioning this? Why is this important? Like, you know that's important because they're mentioning it. And then, but like the, you know that it has a meaning, but you don't exactly know what it is, and you don't know why they're bringing it up. But, so at the moment, it seems super random. Winston like wakes up from this nightmare about rats, and he like, you really see that he's truly shaken by it. And so you don't know exactly why. Now we do. Rats are his like worst fear ever. So now that he is in this room 101, they're going to use that to their advantage and torture him with rats. Let's see what the chat says. So someone does want me to read to them. the funniest comment ever. So it said, my room 101 is Rosecrans covered by that sheet for eternity. Yeah, obviously. Books in bed, not gonna be naked. For you, at least. Okay, so yeah. I mean, now I don't exactly know, because I don't want to wrap it up like super vaguely, but okay. I mean, okay, do you guys really want me to read? Because it's only the last 10 pages, so it probably wouldn't take that long. It's like 11-ish pages. Okay, if I get one more person saying yes to read, I will. I will take off the recording, and then we will we'll read the rest of the book together, and then we can discuss. Okay, someone did it. So, yeah, I guess for the purpose of the record. So if you're watching this later on YouTube and not in the live stream, I do suggest that you hop over to my Ustream channel. I'll put the link down below, and it will have the full recording so you can catch just the last end of it if you would like. I was bad and I didn't finish rereading the last 10 pages of the book, so I don't want to do a super vague wrap up just based on what I remember when I read this book like years ago. So we are going to do a more thorough one on the Ustream, but unfortunately that's not going to be recorded for YouTube. So definitely go to the Ustream if you'd like to catch that. And as always, thank you so much for joining me for this interactive book club. Doing 1984, it was super fun reading it with you guys. Finding the scary parallels between today's society and the fucked up society of Oceania. And I'll keep you posted on the next book that we'll be reading together in bed.